Welcome. My name is Leah. If I don't know you, nice to meet you all. Thank you for being here. I am a drama teacher in middle school, 6 through 8. And today we're going to be talking about production, creating shows, productions with your students at your schools. We'll be sharing some things with you, some resources, some ideas, and then giving you all the space to share, collaborate, and hopefully come up with some ideas or solutions to overcome certain obstacles you might be facing in your various school communities. Pass it over to you.
Very good. My name is Helio, and I work at American International High School. It's a school of immigrant students just arrived in the country, and we do original productions where the students devise from a theme. So we'll have, different experiences.
Yeah, and Naima, some of you may know her, she will also be joining us in just a moment. She's on her way back. Before we really dive in, the first thing we're going to invite you to do is just respond to some of these prompts that you see around the room. So the biggest thing we're going to dive into today is some challenges that we might be facing in terms of putting these productions together and creating plays with our students. And we kind of broke it down into 5 main categories. We have student engagement, admins or other types of higher ups that might be posing a challenge, resources, where do we find them, how do we get them, what do we need that we don't have, space and time challenges. I know I have a very small little classroom full of 35 desks and an auditorium space that I share with elementary school. So we all have these challenges with space and time. Where do we find the time? What time are we using? How are we using our time? And personnel, right? I know many of us wear many different hats. How can we find people to share those hats with who can support us in this process? So each of us might have different challenges in each of these different areas. I invite you to just throw everything up there, everything that you are experiencing, or if you feel like you found a really awesome solution to one of these challenges, we welcome you to put that up there as well. As you're reflecting, we also just have some sort of vision board questions over here that you can address. So what does an ideal production process look like for you? And then what kinds of shows do you want to do? In an ideal world, what kinds of shows would you be doing, do you want to do, even if you're not doing them right now? So we'll give you about 10 minutes just to reflect. There's a basket of markers over there. During that time, there will also be up on the screen in just a moment a QR code. If you have a device, a phone, or something that you can use to scan the QR code, that will just bring you to a presentation. Some things I'm going to be sharing, but also some resources. I thought it might be more useful to do it digitally rather than do a whole packet of paper. So that is for you to scan, access, look over at your leisure. All right, so 10 minutes, marker over there.
So the kids stay back. Yes. Yeah. And that's what this game is about, I guess. Yes.
Well,
So
I'm really happy to meet you.
I'm so happy.
I was inspired by your work.
So before we dive into the work today, is there anything as you were walking around, writing your notes, reflecting on what other people shared, that resonated with you or stood out, or maybe you noticed people were sharing similar challenges as you? Anything that resonates? Yeah.
Limited auditoriums.
Yes, it's a big one. I imagine many of us are sharing our auditorium space with other schools as well. Other things that stood out?
Lighting,
Lighting,
sound.
lighting, tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being impressed with the creativity and creatives needed to use to solve some of the problems. So like, some people are like, oh, I haven't thought of that idea. Let's say idea.
Yeah, I was really struck by how many solutions people are sharing on these as well. And we'll definitely make a record of these and type up the notes to share with you all after this session. So we're going to dive in. I have just a brief sort of presentation. I am not claiming to be any sort of expert. I think there is a huge wealth of knowledge in this space that we are really going to hopefully get to experience and pull from today. But I have found as a participant in these sessions that it is always very helpful to be able to walk away with some sort of concrete resources. So the intention of this is really just to compile and share what I do in my school, which I know may be very different from what many of you do, or if you may be doing these things already. But hopefully there's some nugget of wisdom or an idea that this may spark in you that you can take away from this. So I'm going to move really quickly through this because we're not here to listen to a lecture or anything like that. But hopefully some of this is helpful and can get you thinking as we send you off into groups a little bit later to discuss some of these challenges and ideas.
And problem solve for yourself, right? So you could also think sometimes it's not only the lack thereof, and I think there are times where you think they we're in lack. Sometimes there's also just too much of, and you're trying to figure out how to spread out the wealth, right? Lots of engagement.
Something I noticed, the auditorium is too damn big.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a very real challenge as well.
Right. So think about keeping your spaces, your places in mind as you're going through this. And I have 6 through 12 to give you examples from. And I'm so aware of elementary school, because y'all have.
So I think I mentioned at the beginning, I teach 6th through 8th grade at the Salk School of Science. And I teach the entire school. So I have 6th grade twice a week, 7th grade once a week, 8th grade twice a week. And you all know that if you see a class once or twice a week, sometimes that means you don't see them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks because of days off, PD, whatever. So I have basically turned my production process fully into an after-school program. This is beneficial to me in certain ways. I don't really need to go through admin for anything, except for, these are the days of the show, and I might need to pull kids on X, Y, or Z days, but for the most part, I'm fortunate. I have a great on-site after-school program, but I work closely with the after-school director, and everything is run through after-school. So that means I don't have to deal with procession. I get paid through the after-school program. I can utilize after-school TAs and other support staff that they have available, and things like that. I am also the only performing arts teacher in my building. It's me, and there's a visual art teacher. I think I noticed over here someone mentioned, or maybe over there, about, we want to bring other teachers in, but other teachers are completely overtaxed as well. They have their own stuff going on, they have their own clubs, they have their own things that they're stressing about dealing with. And my first year at this school, I did everything completely by myself. And we spoke a little bit at the beginning about having to wear all these different hats. So something that I found really beneficial is just expanding my network at my school and talking to people and getting to know people who come into the building who might not be teachers and might not be there all the time. You would be surprised how many subs are also working actors. And I am now having, the office staff now sends them to me. So-and-so is an actor, go talk to them, So my music director was actually someone who was subbing at my school. I spoke with him and learned that he has a degree in music and music education. And so he no longer subs at my school, but he's still my after-school music director. My design team, my costume design team coordinator is a para, who I learned just through talking to her when she was in my classroom. Used to be a fashion designer. Now she oversees the costume design team. I mentioned the after-school program. The after-school director is really supportive. She doesn't have a creative background, but she wants to help. And so finding people who maybe don't have the same sort of stress workload as your colleagues who are teaching in the classroom can be a really helpful way to build your team and spread some of the responsibility. Yes?
Can I just add to that too? Some of the things that I do at my school is I pick the people that I know, right? So there's a lot of people in my bag that I know as well that I brought to my school, and have my principal has nominated them to be vendors. So you can also go through the nomination route if you have a great relationship with your principal and say, I have this great musical director, or this great pianist, or this great whatever it is, and then you can use those too. So that's what I do.
There are so many different programs out there that want to contribute to what you have.
That too.
And it really is about sussing out the community that you're in, whether it be like Grand Street Settlement, or sometimes LEAP, or sometimes YMCA people kind of sleep on, but their after-school programs historically have supported non-for-profit and schools in general. They want to contribute, they like a focus. So you might want to look at what are the programs, or even your neighboring schools, what after-school programs do they already have in-house? That's one strategy in terms of building a really good ensemble.
And I will also add to be aware of how the budget works in your school. Does the after school have a different budget? Do they work with two different budgets? Because in my school, we're a community school. So we have one budget that is a regular budget, but then there is an organization that has another budget that you can tap from. So I become best friends with the budget managers of every part of my school. And then when I have a clear budget of what I need, then I can go to each one, and then they can help you to piece it all together.
And to add on to that, I mentioned that I do everything through the after-school program. It reflects really well and actually brings more funding into an on-site after-school program to have big, flourishing after-schools like play, right? So my drama club typically has like 60 plus students enrolled in it, and that brings money to the after-school program. So they like that I do this, and they have funding for me. So I do not have to tap any of my funding for like the regular school day or anything like that. Everything I do for my production is funded through Manhattan, through the after-school program. So this didn't zoom correctly, that's okay. I lost my train of thought. Oh, here we go, okay. So I really rely on my students very heavily as well in this process, and because I only do one show a year, I try to make space for everybody who wants to be involved to get involved. So I try to pick shows that have big ensembles, but even still, I typically will double or triple cast lead roles, and the way that I do that is instead of having multiple casts, which is more work on you, I give each student a section of the play that they are responsible for. So last year I did Shrek. We had 3 Shreks. We had 2 Fionas. When it was time for them to hand off the role, they both came on stage. They physically handed something to the other person. Next kid is Shrek now, and moving forward. Especially teaching middle school, I find that this that the kids really get the opportunity to sink their teeth into what their piece of the play is. It doesn't become this overwhelming thing where I have to learn this role for this whole play, and they really take ownership over the piece of the play that they have. And this allows more students to be involved and actually have meaningful roles rather than just being on stage just to be on stage. I also have student dance captains and choreographers. I have student design teams, so I have 2 different design teams that run simultaneously with my rehearsals, a costume design team and a set design team, and they're run by a member of the after-school team and a para. And then I have student stage managers and stage crew. I'll have them up there with the design teams creating rehearsal reports. What the goals were for the day, what was accomplished, who did what materials are needed. And then I set up monthly production meetings with the adults overseeing those different teams so that we can all be on the same page. But the main point of this is that it's really a focus on the students. The students are creating the costumes and the props, and I really try to shy away from ordering or renting like the pre-made costumes or set pieces. It doesn't look as polished, sure, but the kids are really excited to see their designs up on stage, and it gives them an opportunity to be a part of it and feel ownership over the process. I also have a student stage management team, and they do all my paperwork for me, which is great. I have a student stage crew, and I have a student tech crew. I am not a tech person. I don't have a tech background. I keep tech very simple, but I have the kids run it, and I teach them like the basic, this is how to change a light cue, and we have a little light panel in our auditorium with basic programming, and they're responsible for it. They break it down, they write the light cues, and they practice running it during rehearsals. So the more you can put on the students, the better they want it. Okay, this is a really big one that I find has been so helpful. Before the show even begins, I hold an audition workshop or an info session where anyone who might even think they might possibly be interested in the show comes to this session. At this session, I make it very clear what the expectations of each role are and what the commitment is. I tell the kids, if you're just here because your mom told you it might be a good idea to sign up for the play, respectfully, we don't need you. And we set really clear expectations, which gives students a chance to sort of gracefully bow out without it being like a scene. They can be like, okay, you know what, this isn't for me, thank you so much, and it's not a big deal. At that workshop, I also give students in the student design team or crew an application they have to fill out. They have to apply to be on the team, so it feels as serious as auditioning to be an actor in the play. And then on the first day of rehearsal and the first day of design team meeting, everyone receives a contract that's specific to their role. We review it together in rehearsal. They have to sign it themselves, get it signed by a parent or guardian, and bring it back to me. We have a strict absence policy, 3 strikes and you're out. So it creates this level of seriousness because I found early on that kids were getting into the process really enthusiastic and then like, oh, this is actually a really big commitment, this is too much, I can't do it, and kind of screwing us over in the process. And another thing, I only have rehearsal twice a week because I'm at a school that has a lot of kids who have a lot of extracurriculars going on. They have sports, they have SHSAT prep, they have, Chinese class, they have everything going on. They have other after-school programs they want to be a part of. So I tend towards a longer rehearsal process. We start in January and we go up in May, and we rehearse twice a week with the exception of our tech week.
So if you don't necessarily have parents that I think are very engaged, I have in a 6 through 12 asked faculty or asked teachers to be accountable for students. They already have rosters, they already know the students. Sometimes that becomes like making the village within your school. So it's like if those 5 students are accountable to Mr. Bryan, and then it's Mr. Bryan and the guidance counselor and an AP and myself coming around the student also just gets to feel seen. And some of this is why they join in, is that they want to be seen. I also have seen quite a bit where I've had a reciprocal amount of students be accountable for each other. I made core groups, and I say that really like whiplash. Like there was a core amount of teams, and then they had understudies, and then they had understudies for their understudies, and they were so hungry to get into that space, they were just like, I just need a day. One absence, and they knew when they walked into the room the next day, and this was like my 8th grade, they would walk in the room the next day and they would sit down because they already knew that they missed something integral. I had 3 to 5 days a week of rehearsal because I was very clear that we were going on to the next show. And they knew that there would be something happening in another 12 weeks. With them or without them. So I think it really depends on your community. And you can tell, like, I was very aware of parents. I had to be. A lot of them did not speak English. A lot of them didn't even understand what it meant to be theatrical. So trying to get them to sign another contract was kind of like, what is this about? Because they didn't understand what they were being accountable towards. But in-house, it really didn't like hold this sense of everybody's here for this. So.
And then if I check for us, since we're devising and making our own plays, for us building community and creating community agreements and the bylaws of the group, I like it to be, a very important part of the process. So we have the luxury of spending 4 weeks only on learning how to play with each other, creating our rules, and everybody writes their own. There's auditions, and everybody writes their own character within the play as we move it all together, so they feel, personally responsible to be part of the production, which helps with, being consistent throughout.
So the last piece, and then we'll move on from this, but because I do everything so much through after school, have really tried to be mindful and intentional about building the culture and community during the school day around the play. And trying to do things that really don't involve admin support or anybody else, but that can still get the kids excited and feel that this play and the drama club is still a part of their school day, it's still a part of their school community, even if they're not in the after school club and it's not just a separate thing. So I try to build excitement around the play every year. This is my classroom board. And at the beginning of the year, I put up a bunch of plays that it could be. And then each week I eliminate one play until I reveal what the play will be, usually the week before the audition workshop. And this gets kids really excited, even the kids who are like, I'm not going to be in the play, but I want to know what it is. And they come around and check my door every week to find out. I usually do a scene study unit with my 6th graders, and I will use the text of whatever the play is that we're doing. So when the kids come see the play, they're like, I did that scene in class, and they have that connection to it. I also do a playbill cover contest every year. This is open to all members of the school community, even if they are not involved in the play in any way. And they have the opportunity to submit an original design for the playbill for that year's show, and whoever is the winner, they actually have their design printed on the playbill. So when people come see the show, they get the program with their design on it. So this was last year's design for our production of Shrek, and then this is an early submission for our upcoming Beetlejuice production here. So they come up with some really cool things, and it's exciting for kids to come who may not have come to see the show, and they come to see their design on the program and bring their friends to say, hey, I made this. We always do an invited dress rehearsal as well. This is our last tech rehearsal, so it's the night before the show opens. And I ask, this came about because my first year at this school, we only had one teacher in the entire school come see the show, which I found pretty tragic. So I encourage students to personally invite their teachers to come see them. We do it right after school on a Thursday, so they don't have to go out of their way to see the show. So it's for teachers and staff, and then every student is allowed to invite 2 of their friends. So we have a small little trial audience of just members of the school community who are there to support the kids and see the show before we open. And then this kind of creates a nice buzz the next day, which is our opening day, where everyone who got to see the show in previews is talking about it at the school the next day. And then the last thing that is like, I know that not everyone can do this, but I'm really passionate about keeping shows free. I have a website that I created where people can do a QR code, they can log on and register for a ticket so it feels official. It doesn't feel like a free-for-all or chaos. They have to come and show their ticket at the door, just like a regular show. But I don't want to create a cost barrier for students or for family members to come see the show. And we end up having people come see the show multiple times because it's free. And then I tried to find other places to do fundraising, like we'll sell t-shirts at the door or things like that. But yeah.
In one of my old schools, I made the tickets were $5. I gave every teacher 6 tickets, so they were able to give it out as like incentive, reward. They had to give those tickets out, and so it became like such a big. I got these amount of tickets. Some people would have like 8 tickets to give their friends, and then they would bring them to the show, and that became such a big flex about who they were as a student. There was a sense of, I had the deans run my house. I came from directing background, so I understood house management, tech theater, I had that as a minor, and then just like directing a show. So I had all the technical aspects, I had the deans run the house, I never had to touch money, I never had to see a ticket, and they were so happy to do it because they also got to understand the flow of traffic into the building. I worked with every neighboring school because one of my issues was admin, and I am admin too, because I had the superintendent in my building. So instead of being a little, well, and we would have after schoolers, and kids will be kids. So sometimes they would be running around, or sometimes they would hear funny sounds. So instead of like being against, I would say, do you have some schools that would come and see the show? And they would invite schools forward. It was just one way to get even more performances into the building. So there's so many different ways to go about it, and so many different ways to like generate some sort of, I want to call it an exchange, right? Like art isn't necessarily free. And that is also something like the community needs to understand. Not because it can't be free. It's like my energy has like value. So there's got to be something in exchange.
And then for us, the power of social media from the beginning of the year, it's been huge. So my goal is also to make the theater kids proud of their process and know that they're better than everybody else somehow, and then people can make them feel jealous about it. So we document, oh my God, we had our first girl for today, with like pictures and things. And then I use the power of Broadway Bridges. I hope that you are familiar with the program. And then I take the kids on trips every other month. And then it's like, oh my God, the theater kids want to see Broadway again. Oh my God, the theater kids are doing this again. Oh my God, those stupid things like we bring cupcakes and then we put on social media, look at the cupcakes that the theater kids did. So it's like all these different things. And then also I recognize my principal, my community organization, and also the politicians, I make them part of the process. Because when they have money, they send it to me. So if we go to see Broadway Bridges, we go to see a show, I pay $20 for the poster, I have all the kids sign it, and then we all walk into the principal's office. And then give her that poster. And the principal says, oh my God, the kids are amazing.
We did that with the superintendent, and that
Right, and
I
that
got
works
awarded
great.
for that.
Like the lady from the organization that helps us, I get magnets every time that we go to a show, and then she pays for all the kids to have happy meals in McDonald's before we see the show. So there's all this exchange, right? Knowing your target people, or if the kids right now are doing a play about the uprise of dictatorships in Latin America, and I know that my council women studied social studies, Latin America studies. So I'm like, oh my God, we really need you to come and teach your kids about everything you know about, because that's what the play is about. And then they're like, oh, absolutely, I can totally. So they come in and they become part of the process. So little by little, you have all these people helping you in the process, yeah.
This question, especially because I work with middle schoolers, so when you have your students doing these social media advertising, do you have college team? Have you ever encountered
Any issues? So our school, we're very lucky to have like a social media team. And they managed all the accounts, but we only have to resell the pictures, and they did it. But that's also something to think about, right?
We shut comments on everything. We don't allow comments. They're just like,
Yeah.
they could like it.
And I
Yeah.
would say even just being part here, because I'm talking about 3 or 4 schools that I've done, turned off comments when I worked here, turned off comments when I worked in Bushwick. It was just easier because I was making the commentary, so they had to just enforce them to read. Sometimes I would put code in there that they wanted, or I would say, hey, if you want to go see the show, so if you can read, they would come knocking on the door. I saw your, at the time, Facebook post about this show. Hey, I saw this thing off of Insta.
Okay, I do that. I teach high school, and we have a theater account for our high school. And we had an issue at the beginning when we first started it, where kids were like going on and doing stupid stuff. And we had to have a talk with them, where we were like, this is really promotional, and this is to like get excitement from other students and from middle schoolers who want to come and audition for our program. You can't be doing that. And like, it just had to be a conversation, and they did listen in here. I could see how it might be easier just to shut it down, but that worked for us.
Okay, so the last thing before we send you off, this may or may not be useful to you, but I always find it to be useful to walk away with resources. So these are all just links to documents and paperwork that I've created over the years to help in my production processes. So each of these is a link to a Google form or Google Doc. You're welcome to make a copy of it, use it, modify it however best fits your needs, but these are all the things I use for my audition workshop and audition process. These are things that I use throughout my rehearsal process, including the actor, designer, and crew/management contracts. And then these are just some helpful things that I've made to ease the flow of things during Tech Week and Show Week. So hopefully this can save you a little bit of time, a little bit of paperwork, and yeah, I hope it's useful to you.
And then I know there are people that are gonna say the big T, tenure. These documents do help support a tenure portfolio, any kind of presentational portfolio, even end of year meetings with admin. It just shows like how much organization and thought processes have gone into a production.
I just have a question. So I'm in a D75 school. It's a brand new site. Our kids are bussed in and bussed out every day. I see the same 5 classes every single day for 55 minutes. There's no after school program. So what do you recommend for situations like that?
Sorry, I'll just really quickly say, like, I think there's so much that you can do when you see kids for essentially 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I think using the in-class time in that way, like if this unit is, this is our play production unit. And it's an arc towards every day building up towards whatever play it is that you want to do. And you can create those different roles inside your classroom as well, because, not every kid is going to want to be center of the stage. So maybe you teach into having student stage managers who are the kids who are more trying to be organized or like to time things or tell people what to do. And you teach into having student design teams. And I think, you can make those production teams happen within your classroom space. I only see kids once or twice a week, so it's harder to have that consistency, but I think it's totally doable.
Yeah, all my kids are on the spectrum, so I have 2 of my classes in particular are non-speaking.
Oh, that's my lady jam, sorry.
Yeah, please.
I only say that because there was I'm gonna say 5 years ago where I found that there were students that wanted to participate. I had a D75 school integrated into another class of mine. And so in order for them to participate in shows and things of that nature, I begged for the scheduling. So I was able to work with my admin at the time. First I had them in a class and they were able to produce. That's usually when I used my resources and partnerships. So I had Leap come in and do a whole playwriting series with them. So they were just excited to hear their work. They were just excited to hear stage readings of their work. From there, the next year, I was able to beg for scheduling because I could show what happens when they're included. And then they were able to do, let's say, 7th, 8th period, and they couldn't stay after school, but they knew exactly what they had to rehearse and what they had to do, and I had them 3 or 4 times a week. So it made it really easy for them to know their roles and responsibilities, and they showed up. And then I just worked with parents because they stayed after school, they saw it, and they were so happy.
I would also, no, go ahead.
I teach a variety of levels, self-contained, gen ed, students, a lot of students that don't speak English, brand new to the country, and a few selective mutes that just choose not to speak. And so I've had to do, or students that are so almost debilitated, from fear of anyone looking at them. So I've added a lot of pantomime units.
Yeah, I use a lot of sign language.
Yeah, so I do sign as well. We did some pantomime, we did mime. And then recently I started doing film, and I let them do silent film. And I had the kids, even if they couldn't communicate with each other because of language or because they wouldn't speak or couldn't speak, I had, if they were behind the camera and they were able to either act it out or just actually film it themselves and then watch it, it was a really cool experience. Cool. And they loved it. And I just used iPads to film, and then I taught them basic editing in iMovie. So if you're able to.
Yeah, that's
sure.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to what you said, I have a nonverbal student who is in a gen ed class, and this is my second year teaching him, and he's really gotten into like art. We did an improv unit at the beginning of the year, and he was volunteering for everything, and everything that he could show. He really wanted to participate in the improv. He started drawing things and writing things and like showing them. And really, I mean, he's taken a lot of initiative, but incorporating himself into how can he still be expressive in these different, I think he found the improv scenarios very inspiring as well. So I think, yeah, improv, pantomime, yeah.
I also did shadow.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because some of them were afraid to
Yeah.
be on stage, so that if they made their own puppets.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
So we're gonna pretty much have you split up into, I'm gonna say, critical issues. Where you are taking what you are thinking about from your own school, right? You're gonna create an action plan.
So when you decide where you want to go, just think, where's a place I'm really struggling right now and can use support, or where's a place where I feel like I have a lot to offer, and I could be of support to someone else in this space. So either way is great, and just whatever sort of category speaks to you the most. And then, sorry, go ahead.
So you're gonna create a 1-minute pitch based off of your group's critical issue. So for instance, if we're gonna go admin, I'm gonna use this for a second. If you're gonna go admin and admin doesn't understand an after-school program, that's what you're doing. You are going to identify your key issue, so they don't know what an after-school program looks like.
Identify one obstacle you can change.
Finding ways to meet with them so that they can understand the necessities of running a meeting.
Identify what resources you need.
I definitely need personnel. I need other teachers. I need other staff, and I need space. Done.
How much time do you need and why?
I'm going to start from the beginning of the year, and my hope is that I will have one showcase by December and a major musical by May.
And who is involved in the solution?
Well, I need at least an AP to keep the ideas going. Like, I need an AP support. And then I also need teachers and students.
Identify the solution and name the steps.
I'm going to set a series of meetings so that people could come in and take initiative with this. And then I'm going to also try to make a regular meeting either with an AP or principal so I can show them the budget, the resources, and the space needs that I have.
And explain why it will work.
It will work because once they understand the process and trust the fact that I know what is needed for our school, then we can build upon the skills that we've done for this school.
So we don't have a ton of time, but we do want you to take this time in your groups to share, discuss, and develop this action plan. It can be literally the way we just did it right here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or extravagant. So if you are most interested in collaborating, problem solving around student engagement, we'll ask you to meet over here. If you are more interested in collaborating around admins, etc., you'll meet right here. Space and time will meet over here. Personnel will be at the back over there, and resources over in that back corner. We'll give you about 8 minutes before we come back together and share. If you're going far away, I might recommend taking a picture of the action plan steps so you don't have to keep running back and forth.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work with him to try to create a new one because I know this is outdated.
Yeah.
But there's some people who asked about like the pianist, which I listed like Chris Blacker, who's a pianist that I use. But I also know some like vendors for like tech and that stuff side of stuff. So like if you guys need that, my email's right there. I can happily help you with that. But I'll also send something if you're part of the Manhattan. Okay, well I'll send it to the wrong species.
And I also replaced somebody who was there for a number of years who didn't really do outside productions. It was like an in-class production in April, and it was shared with the school, which is great. And I was like, I want more than that.
Yeah.
And so we're actually reviving our, this is like I'll call it the beta or alpha version of our Broadway tour. We probably won't do a full thing this year. And it's like, how do I find personnel in my small community school? There's no way. There's going to be another performing arts. Well, I shouldn't say that. The dance teacher might help. There's a guy who's a musician, but there's also a lot of, not through their fault, but apathy as in like things fall apart.
What is your key issue? So we identified our key issue,
Yeah.
right? We don't have time to put on a production, like to be with the students,
Yeah.
like and rehearse with them to put on a production. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Identify one obstacle you can change.
Well, I can talk with the administration team to say, hey, if we want to put on a show, this is, what I need. I need all the students,
With your perspective, I'd have been like,
No, she just.
you're middle school, right? Elementary? You guys want them to get even better on their ELA scores? Why not have them write their own materials? This is how we can practice them doing the two-point discussion answers. Oh my God.
There is she has no reason to pass.
So give her a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Give her the reason.
So maybe the solution there is picking some standards from ELA and turning it to the next generation standards. Yeah.
Or say, specifically work out in just teachers in college student, we can just say, well, we only hold students I know in high school you can kind of do that, but it gets really shaky when the parents call you and they're like, hey, it's my child. No, please don't call me. No. So yeah, I think finding different ways of grouping the students you're working with.
So we say, what is the key point is how do we include all students?
How do we include all students? Let me take a look. Identify an obstacle was incorporating everyone into it, right? And I think
And making them accountable.
making them accountable.
Because that's the.
I love that contract.
Admin's also looking for that too.
Yeah.
The parents at the school as well. Like, well, how I won't get that question.
It's so interesting because what's the money? Like when being theater or educator, it was like, if I went to do what I was supposed to do, I'd give it up. So what is a write-up for the student performer, And I do think there are things, like we have field trips, and that's the first thing that goes, finding things within the world of field production that are the students all flock toward, like we also have this huge field trip where we go on a social trip to Dave and Buster's, and I've already taken 6 kids off of that trip, but then also if they start coming back to rehearsal, I'm like, okay, it's like, because it's just Dave and Buster's, it's not like a real thing, but to them, Dave and Buster's is like the best thing, since, so. Anyway, I took a picture of the accountability. We're talking about accountability now, like how do we hold students working on a convention accountable?
I had the rubric, like a
rubric.
checklist, and that kind of worked for me a bit of time until they got too comfortable with it.
When do you give it out? Like, is it at the end? In the middle?
When I was doing the tech crew thing in my class, they were excited about it. They went to playing music.
Is in your PDs? No, I was thinking
if she has to do a PD, she can do a PD on theater programs or, like theater. Etiquette, yeah, theater etiquette. And just kind of put that out there, and send staff.
Like what? Listen to this.
I'll do it. Next time they have the Broadway Junior Workshop, I went to that this year.
It was great.
It was fantastic.
I've done it a few times.
I feel like if you make those people who are like, I don't know, like whether it's because
they need it.
Right, they need to go. They always need to go.
We got my school, before I got there, the reason I have a job, they did Disney Kids through Disney Junior, and my school loved it. They're like, yes, and so hired a theater teacher because they had done the after school program. This is great. So that is all theater. Theater is Disney. That's
Many
it.
schools.
Which is fine. But so now Disney has you apply to a thing which is called Stage Connect, which is online resources and training videos. Identify one obstacle you can change issues. So thing that you're
an obstacle I can change.
You've used
Teacher support.
boom.
Okay.
Getting teacher support.
Identify what resources you need.
Teachers.
To be supported.
Teachers in that in that area.
Teachers who have a specialty skill. Yes.
Identify one obstacle you can change.
Yeah.
So that's the teacher, and then identify what resources.
Teacher with a specialty.
I was gonna say, can we clarify this? Teacher support. What does that mean? Does that mean teachers also working in the after-school program to watch students? Does that mean teachers in the English department teaching playwriting? Does that mean what is teacher support?
Utilizing teachers' skills that I don't know about yet.
What's one?
We only have 7 teachers.
What's one of the teacher skills that you want?
So what we're gonna do now is hear some form of your 1-minute pitch, or at least your resolution to, or a resolution to one of these critical issues that we have presented. Yes? So is there anybody that would like to volunteer to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Yay! So we're gonna start with personnel.
So yeah, a lot of us came here as personnel, some from different ends of the spectrum. Some of us had way too many kids to deal with and not enough personnel. Some of us had the other opposite issues, like identifying, we've had a lot of adults in the building that are really passionate, want to help, but maybe not enough kids yet. And so we talked a lot about trying to make sure that we identify passion in other teachers, but make sure that that partner is willing to follow through on that passion, and so they don't become just a really excited audience member, which is great, but then we'll invite them to production and they can come watch it. The other thing that we talked about too was making sure to try and, if we can, find parents. They're a really valuable resource. But on the other hand, if that's not an option, really navigating sort of the tricky thing that you guys mentioned about after-school programs and really leveraging them in a way, for example, at my school, where it could be an after-school program, it can live there, but also then I can talk to the high school after-school program and say, can I get some high school mentors, because we're a combination school, which is, I realize, a unique situation, we're middle high school. So it's just trying to navigate some of those resources and make sure that we've got a cohesive team and resources for those teams so that we're all equal partners in the creative process, as opposed to top down, one person running it all, because that person's probably gonna not run it for that long, because they'll run out of energy. So there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who would like to go next? Yay!
Thank you. The program that is happening in the school, like me, I only meet most of my students once a week, and some twice a week. We don't have after school. And same for you.
And my problem with time is that the programming in my school kind of sucks, because I will meet with one set of students one day, and I meet with them another day, but it's with another set of students. So I will teach a lesson to that first set of students, but I'll have to change it or do something else with the other students that have joined that group.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of have two solutions. The first one is we can do a show that the students don't have to meet each other. Different different class do one thing or two things, and they only know they are actually, they will meet each other on the performance day. That is one solution, and the other one is.
And for me, we discussed possibly having the first set of students become like my co-teachers for teaching the next set of students the same lesson.
Release the responsibility from the teacher to the students.
Amazing. Thank you. Someone else want to go for the remaining issues? Who would like to go next? Okay, student engagement.
Yeah, so the key issue that we agreed upon is how do we include all students in the whole process, not just the performer, including stage management, stage crew. One obstacle we discussed is that reluctant student who does not want to participate. So some of the suggestions that were shared were, include, and also accountability on the students, not just having them participate, but holding them accountable. So depending on the space that you have, perhaps you create different stations where students can circulate around the space while you're maybe working with a small group. And these stations can be more related to scenic design or costume design or lighting, depending on the space you're working with. Another one was, and just like simple, having certain props available for students to just, be involved in the process if they are reluctant to perform. Is there anything else? Yeah.
Thank you. Who would like?
One thing that was discussed in our group was sort of admin possibly not buying in or lack of understanding of what a great theater program might look like, and someone suggested using like the occasional opportunities for free tickets that we get as theater teachers to actually invite and expose our admin to professional theater, because potentially admin in the DOE have never been to a Broadway show or seen, something at the Public or BAM, and like being the person to be like, hey, go check this out, this is really cool, and similar to something that I'm imagining for our students, might be a way to get admin more on side and show them what you imagine and dream scenario your school might be like.
Wonderful. And resources?
God, there's so many different kinds of resources, aren't there?
Yes.
Say what your problems are.
We were talking about basically creating a student-led, student-created original work, big production with all the bells and whistles.
And like I think the big thing that it came down to in our conversation was the idea of that nothing works without like support from additional teachers.
Yes.
So that was sort of like the question we were working on answering, is like, how do we find those additional teacher supports to bring in other skills, whether that be a theater skill like some sort of technical element, costuming, or maybe if it's a student-led production, something like playwriting or something of that nature to get in there.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
So before we let you go, I know we're a little over time. You are headed to your borough breakout sessions now. If you have a moment on your way out, no pressure. We have some reflection questions up here if you want to just jot something down. We'll put all of them just right here. It doesn't have to be anything formal, but maybe a quick idea or thought that comes to mind on your way out. If not, totally fine. Thank you all so much.